My name is Evan Hankinson. Originally from Charlotte, North Carolina. Live in Raleigh right now, and I'm a bondsman, and I work with the medical examiner's office. And I just turned 41.
I am Cecilia Hankinson, and I'm 39 years old. I currently reside in Concord, North Carolina, with plans to move to Raleigh, North Carolina with my husband, Evan. I am a registered travel nurse. I've been nursing for 17 years, and I have two daughters, ages 11 and 13.
A big part of it is being in the right place at the right time. You have to position yourself. You have to put yourself in the right place at the right time. It's not something that you get lucky with normally. I mean, you gotta become the person who you were supposed to be in order to be able to cross paths with that person. Is a lot like what it felt like to me.
I agree. I think when it comes to working on yourself to become the person that you wanted to be, before I met Evan, I wasn't in a place that I was ready to date. I knew that I had healing I needed to do from a divorce. I knew that I wanted to get my heart right, my spirit right, and just actually do some therapy work to work through some things so that I could start to learn how to trust people again and trust someone with my heart. It took some time and effort and, like you said, a lot of work, but it did get me to a place where I felt like I was ready and prepared, and going through the classes guided me through that as well. In studying and going through the lesson about romantic negotiations and being able to understand what you want and learn what the other person needs as well, I was able to actually take that into the very first date we had. We talked in the classes about learning to have those initial important conversations that are required for intentional dating. And it wasn't anything that I think came off too strong, but I came with some questions as far as, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I presented the information that I had children. We come as a package. What do you do? What are you looking for in the dating world? What does your ideal partner look like? And it might sound heavy to some people, but when you're intentionally dating, you need to be able to rule out kind of early the ones that may not be a good fit. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just the way it is. So I thought about that a lot, getting prepared for our first date, being able to stand my ground on certain things and know what my boundaries were going into that first date, and being comfortable saying, this is what I'm looking for. These things are okay and these things are not. And we had really good conversation at that first dinner. It went really well. So that lesson really worked.
Yeah, I just think, being honest is important. She was honest. She's consistently been honest. And I think texting a lot, our communication style at the beginning, before we even dated, I want to say for maybe at least a month or so, was just to text back and forth. And, because when you're writing, it's a lot more substantive. And I felt like I knew her, or had gotten reacquainted with her by the time that we actually met. So it was really comfortable. The communication just kind of flowed. And like I said, honesty. We were in contact every day by text until we actually dated. So I think that kind of all helped.
Share that it was actually Evan's idea. And it really surprised me at first, and I mentioned this before, meeting people on the app. They were very quick to want to know what you look like, what you're wearing. Do you look like the picture? The first conversations, everybody wants to see you on a video call. When I communicated with Evan, it wasn't like that. He never once asked for a photo. He didn't ask to video call with me. So when we started texting and it went on for days, I was kind of like, wow, okay, he's not saying anything about a picture. I guess, that's not that important to him. Not that there wasn't photos on there, but then he was open and was like, let's just text and communicate like this until we have the first date, and let's not have any phone calls until the first date. And I was like, wow, this is different. But we learned to, like he said, communicate well. And the conversation flowed. I'd finish with a question, he'd answer, finish with a question. And it was natural. I don't know if it was intentional, but that's how it worked. Like he said, for at least a month or so every day, we're talking and sharing essential information about each other until we met face to face. And I really appreciated that from him, because I felt like he wasn't just being a surface person and trying to connect with me, based on physical attributes, but he wanted to know who I was mentally and spiritually before we met in person.
It just felt natural. She was really responsive. She was responsive from the first message. And it wasn't a short message. Now, keep in mind, we didn't know each other well from high school, but we had a little history. We had a mutual school in common. We had taken a band class together when we were younger. So I was getting to know her again. And from the very first message, like I said, she was just kind of honest and responsive, and she gave a complete answer, which is kind of like, today you text back and forth and people got the short answers and what's up, and, it was a substantive kind of conversation. I could tell, or at least it seemed like she was interested from the first communication. So that was a big plus. It just seemed to be going so well. I had never done it before. It just occurred to me that the texting was going well. I was looking forward to getting the messages and reading them, and kind of making me think a little, more deeply about what I wanted in a relationship. And so it just seemed to be going well. It's just something that I wanted to stick with. My thoughts were, I was thinking it must be working. I don't know what it is. I almost felt like, I'm serious, I almost felt pulled towards her from the very first time I ever was swiping, right? I was swiping, and I always like to say, like, I got to her picture, and that was the last swipe that I ever did. Like, I never swiped again. And that was, that's 3 years ago. And I don't know, I just kind of I always felt like, ever since I came across her picture, she always felt like my purpose. That's how I felt from the first moment. And so whatever she was doing up to that point, in fact, whatever she's been doing since, it's been working. I wasn't intimidated. I just kind of felt like she was ready. Just kind of felt welcomed. She seemed nice. All that seemed to come through in her picture. It just felt like a calling. Is really all I can really.
So from the beginning, when we first met and had the initial conversation, where you asked me, how do I know it's for me? I kept saying I felt like it was in alignment. I lived my life by that principle. Ever since God transitioned me out of Wilmington, he just keeps telling me stay aligned. So I'm like, okay, let me just pray on things that feel like they're in alignment. And it was so strong after doing the Boaz challenge. It was so intense. It's hard to explain it. I felt like if I did not pursue it, I was going to miss some type of purpose. I didn't know what was in it. I really didn't think I was actually going to meet someone along the way. I was kind of initially just hoping to get ready so that when it happened down the line that I'd be ready. So I felt like it was alignment. I was really intentional about the classes. Like I told you, I've been a travel nurse. A lot of the time I've been doing this. So I get in the car, play my lesson while I'm driving to my destination, soak it in, take some notes when I touch down. The next week, do the same thing and try to get on the calls when I could and take everything in and work on the homework and try to be practical with it, but moving more into where it was a challenge for me. And I've told this story multiple times, going into the world of virtual dating where COVID was big and you can't really go out and meet people was a big hurdle for me. But I'm glad I actually put it into action because it was something we were all doing as a group. And I kind of prayed about it. I got it one weekend. Facebook actually said to me, hey, Cecilia, get on Facebook dating. I remember clear as day, waking up that Saturday. And I opened up my Facebook and that's what it said. Hey, join Facebook dating. I'm like, what in the world is this? This is crazy. And I said, okay, Lord, if there's purpose in it, I'm going to step out there and do it. So I'm glad that I did that. And that's one of the things that I learned. And like I mentioned before, listening to the other young lady that told her testimony at a weekend conference that we were doing virtually, hearing her tell her story, and her story almost lined up identical to my life. And I was like, okay, if she can do this and get through it and find the fun in it, I need to let go of the fear and just find the fun in the process. I knew it would be kind of overwhelming, but I wanted to find the exciting side of it, like learning to filter people out and learning to start conversations again. And that's how it all began. I've been in that place, and before I found Prepare to Be Pursued, that's kind of where I was. I had been in the world as a single mom, not dating for 8 years straight, and being introduced to the program in this way. I really had to pause in my seat and say to myself, if I've been trying to run it for 8 years and have not had any results, what am I going to lose by putting my situation in the hands of someone that can guide and walk me through this, that has the answers to coach me as I go? And that's one of the things that helped me say, okay, it's a yes. I initially had a little bit of doubt about finances, but I was able to restructure my budget and everything worked out because it was essential and important to me. But going through the lessons and being in a group with other ladies going through the same thing helped me to open up and say, well, I don't need to be afraid because I'm not the only person going through this. And that helped me come out of my state of fear and just learn to get excited about getting the tools. That's the first thing I wanted. I didn't initially want to look for a mate or a Boaz right off. I was just like, I just need the tools and then I can figure this out. I just need the tools. And that's what helped me take the first steps and get over being fearful and become optimistic and faithful about what I could learn and grow into. My favorite was the one about the flies and the bees and honey. Just the visualization of it and the acronym made so much sense to me. So I started thinking about that, and also remembering clearly connection killers. When I would first meet and start engaging with someone, I was trying to keep that in the back of my mind just to have an awareness of it so that I didn't allow those things to kind of make me trip myself up. But I think those are the two that stood out to me the most. I would like to just share that aligning yourself with your purpose matters. Being intentional about putting the program into action matters. Being intentional about aligning yourself where you can be seen, like Evan was saying, matters as well. And those are one of the things that we learn in your class. You can't really just sit on the couch and not go anywhere, not talk to anybody, not do anything, and expect, your husband or future mate to come knock on the door. But also being aware of how you present yourself. And a big part of what I needed to do was figure out how I needed to grow, things I needed to heal from. So aligning with my counseling, got my heart ready. Praying and asking God for guidance, got my spirit man ready. And also feeling it, just leaning into my feminine and leaning into the woman that I am, helped me to feel like I was physically ready to present myself to someone. So having all those things and putting the tools into action will help you to align yourself and get ready, and just keep putting the lessons in action every single day and remembering the purpose while you're doing what you're doing. You're getting ready to be pursued. So being ready matters, because when it comes, it's going to come quick. And you want to be ready to say yes to the one that God has ordained. So just keep stepping forward one day at a time. But it's true though. You need to be ready. Evan, actually, when we were texting along that way, we hadn't even gone on our first date yet. We were a couple of weeks in, and I actually screenshot it. It's somewhere in my screenshots, but he sent me this, a long encouraging message and finished it off by saying, "You're ready. You are ready." And I remember it took the wind out of me to get that. We were just meeting and just talking. And I was like, how does he know? I really had to stop myself and say, okay, well, this is something I've been praying for. I need to accept the fact that God is saying it's time. It really caught me off guard. I was like, how does he know I'm ready? How does he know it's him? Like, this might not even be it. Where the doubt caught me for a second, but I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Okay, God, I see what you doing. I see it. But yeah, it really, really caught me off guard at how it happened and the pace at which it did.
Before I saw it, I wasn't sure, but I knew it when I saw it, though. I knew it when I saw it, because I was actually busy trying to become the best man I could be too, and so I was kind of distancing myself from the relationships that just kind of parasitic and kind of bring you down, and I was getting getting more water, and I was getting on top of my health, and so I was just kind of on a journey and path upwards, and then there she was. I wouldn't have. I don't think I'd have encountered her if I was still like entertaining some of my exes, or if I'd have not been on the path that I was supposed to be on. And so there's a lot of distractions out there, but when I did see it, I knew it. You act deliberately, that's for sure. Because I had a plan, I had a backup plan, I had like a triple backup plan. I had plans for getting in position. I was patient, I was deliberate, but I kind of felt like I could afford to be patient. I was hoping that it would last a long time, so I wasn't worried about what we were doing the next week or the next few days, or so deliberate, patient. But like I said, I also felt like it didn't feel like she had any walls up. Those walls didn't feel like there were, if she was timid or uncertain, I didn't really sense it. I kind of felt welcomed. It kind of felt like we fit. We had really good chemistry from the beginning. So we had good conversational chemistry. We had similar backgrounds. I mean, all that kind of helped. I always felt like, I could be wrong. I always felt like a queen recognizes her king when she sees him, right, and vice versa. And so that's just kind of how I felt from day one. I felt a sense of responsibility. I said patient, but kind of urgent. I didn't really. I kind of felt like, even though I hadn't connected with her yet, I kind of felt like you don't want her to go on another date or anything. You need to go ahead and probably make my move pretty soon. I was kind of leaning into, I want to say, like the spirit of a person, like I told you, her spirit really comes through on her pictures, right? She either posted the right picture or she was in the right mind. She was thinking the right, like that picture just said to me, okay, she's gorgeous, she's sweet, people like her, she's a nice person. Like, there's so much communicated, it seemed like, in her biography, and just kind of the way that she was presenting herself, like you all said, it's not, you don't want to necessarily be overly sexified, you know what I mean? At least that's not what I was looking for. If you ask me what I was looking for, I just, in my mind, that my wife was like a silhouette, and I never was able to see her face, but over the course of my life, that face is just kind of filled in, and then when I saw her, they just kind of merged all together. And so that's really, I don't know, I'd have to know more about what she was doing on her end to become that person. But I just, like I said, I knew it when I saw it. Yeah, it was a really impactful, just kind of few hours for me. It wasn't even just a moment. It was, I'm serious, it was an event, it was actually an event in my life. I'll never forget. I went and kind of laid down for a little bit, because it was that moving, right? To know that, okay, this singularly is gonna be like, this is my next mission. Like, I've had tunnel vision ever since then. So yeah, it was a big deal.
I actually ask Evan for the male perspective a lot. I've done that since we first started talking and dating, and that's exactly how I say it. I like the male perspective. How do you feel about so and so? And I've had him tell me that story several times, because I wanted to know what he felt on the other end. He actually reached out to me and sent a message that disappeared in Facebook dating for like 2 weeks before he sent another message that I finally got. And I wanted to know what that waiting period was like, what he was thinking on the other end, if he was upset. And when he talks about intentionally trying to align himself with me, when I first didn't answer, he said that he saw on my Facebook I was about to go and help host an event in town. He was like, I was going to come to that event and I was going to meet you there. And if I found out that you were with somebody, I was going to allow myself to be your friend. And then I was going to get out the friend zone. I was going to find a way. So hearing him tell and talk about the plan and how he intentionally wanted to align himself with me showed me that feeling and that calling and that pulling that he experienced was real. It is a real thing. Just the same thing that I felt coming into Prepare to Be Pursued, and all that preparation and the counseling and the reading the scriptures on Esther, getting ready, to be the queen one day, which she didn't know, because God had a lot of that on my heart at that time. It was kind of like the same thing. It was an undeniable pulling, tugging, calling to something. I didn't know what it was at the time, but now I know it was just for me to get prepared for Evan. I just want to encourage everyone, continue the pursuit, and continue to grow. The most important thing is to have the tools that you need so that when the time comes, you will be ready. And lean out of fear and into faith, and just know that God has a divine plan. Everybody who's going through this process is here for a reason and a purpose. There's a reason for the alignment. Although the timing for everybody is different, there are different things that God has for us. And I pray that if the desire is to find your Boaz and your divine partner, and you're ready and in that place, that God will align you so that you have a testimony of your own.
Well, for guys, I think a lot of us get distracted. You gotta look for the qualities that you want in your wife, right? Because that distraction can take you on a path that you don't want to go on for years. It can knock you off your purpose. we always say, her and I always say, live in your purpose. And I think that men and women should be living in their purpose so that they can align themselves for a lot of things. But one of those things would be to come across that person that they're destined to be with, that's gonna bring the best out of them. And so I would just say to both sexes to live in your purpose, and particularly the men. So avoid, and maybe even women too. Avoid the distractions. Just recognize when there's a distraction there. Break that pattern.